Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. We got a pretty nice Friday night slate here for you. And this one, we are taking a look at the Cavs headed to Indiana, taking on the very new look Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield will be playing in that one. Caris LeVert will be playing for the Cavs as well after he made his debut against the Spurs. So we'll be taking a look at all the fun stuff in this one. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com as well with some best bets and player props in there for you. And make sure to like and subscribe to that page as we got a couple other videos for you, including that player props video where we came right back to being sizzling hot last night, winning out 3 of those 4 bets for you. So we'll continue to look for that there. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yet another 7-game slate now, the third night in a row. We're looking at the opening lines here on a Thursday night. The Cavs open at -4. It's already been bet up to -5.5, though, as people are trying to attack that new look Pacers team you called. Some might call it a hodgepodge group of rookies and second-year guys who are going to have to learn how to play together on the fly. So we'll talk about that game in a minute. There's 6 other games to look at tonight. Hornets -6.5 at Detroit. Doesn't really warrant a full game video, but I think the Hornets bounce back and finally get that win they've been searching for there in Detroit. Thunder are +13 at the 76ers. We don't know if James Harden will be ready to debut, but it will be interesting to see if he does. The Spurs are +8.5 at Atlanta with a 232 total there. Nuggets +4.5 at Boston. Total around 220 there. Gotta like the under, the way the Celtics have been playing defense and the way the Nuggets play defense down the stretch. The other game we break down is the Timberwolves +3.5 at the Bulls. Total opened at 240 there with those teams playing some shootouts. And then the Magic have been playing some shootouts too lately. I don't know if they're going to keep pace in Utah. They are 12-point dogs out there. So the Cavs, they got their man back, Darius Garland, probably more important than getting Caris LeVert in the lineup. He only had 11 points off the bench, did what he could there in his debut, but it was Garland dropping 27 on fantastic shooting for a 105-92 win over the Spurs. Now 3 straight wins for the Cavs. Now 12 wins in their last 15 games, despite missing Garland for several games. They continue to put it together, no matter who's in and out of the lineup, but Garland is clearly the most important player on this team. They score 4 more points per game when he's there. They hit 3 more threes at a 36% clip versus 31%. Their defensive rating drops 7 points per 100 possessions. Their net rating rises 8 points per 100 possessions when Garland is in there. And they've just been reliable all season. I mean, best defensive rating, best net rating in the entire Eastern Conference. And they're 21-10 against the spread after a win, 33-9 against the spread overall. The thing is with this kind of matchup, which we just saw the Lakers kind of fall into the victim of this, is that when you're facing a team full of guys who just have to prove themselves, they're getting an opportunity. Sometimes you can fall into a bit of a fog, as LeBron James put it, but that's exactly the antithesis of what this Cavs team is. When you look at the Lakers, like they're not taking anybody lightly. They're just as hungry as anybody else, and they don't give you an inch. So I don't think that Halliburton and Buddy Hield are going to be able to just, start extremely hot for this Pacers team. They're obviously still down Miles Turner, Malcolm Brogdon, TJ McConnell. Isaiah Jackson, who's been key for them filling in at center, is questionable with an ankle, and Goga Bitadze is not really who you want to match up with the quick bigs of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I mean, some of these numbers don't necessarily apply because there's so many new faces, but the way the Pacers have started playing when Sabonis went down with that ankle injury, it was insane. I mean, their offensive rating went way up. Their points per game went way up, and their defensive rating went way up as they started playing at an extremely fast pace. Over the last 13 games, they've allowed 121 points per game and 29 assists per game, both tops in the league. They've gone over in 10 of those games. Their last 4 home games have been pretty absurd, just despite fluctuating pace. Just look at this game log here. 97 pace per 100 possessions with Chicago, game totals 237. 107 pace with Orlando, game totals 237.
Jeez.
98 pace with LAC, game total 238.
Yeah.
And then there was that ridiculous game with the Hornets with a 284 total.
Totally.
And look at how the Hornets offense is doing against the rest of the league.
Yeah.
Not very well at all. So it adds up to a 124 defensive rating in their last 4 home games. They're 11-4 to the over with a rest advantage. They have 1 extra day here.
Yeah.
They're 18-10 to the over at home by an average of 6.5 points. They score 7 more points per game at home. Am I talking you into the over here, Josh, or are you only willing to do it if you need to tease this Cavs line down a little bit? Because really, we just expect the Cavs to win. We just don't know if we trust them to be a juggernaut that covers 6 points routinely.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in 1 second. I just want to explain to people who aren't like totally in the know about what the per 100 possessions means. Essentially, what we're saying here is that if you had 100 possessions in a game, what would be your stats, right? If a pace of 107 means you've had 107 possessions in a game, for context, in like, the 90s, there were about 80 possessions in a basketball game. So you're just going up and down the court, not worried about a shot clock at all, because you're not even getting close to hitting it. That's at a wild pace there. You're not talking me into anything with the total, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to come back to the Cavs only allow 104 points a game to their opponents on the road. And really in this one, look, if it was the Cavs that were just scoring 100, giving up 158 points or scoring 136 points, as we mentioned, like I wouldn't mind taking 214 at all. It probably wouldn't be that low either, but I wouldn't mind taking it. It's just this is a team that I don't know how they're going to gel. I mean, I know how Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield play together, which is like pretty well when they're not playing with De'Aaron Fox, actually. But then you're talking about O'Shea Brissett, and as you mentioned, Gitadze. I don't know who I'm getting here to how they're going to mesh with each other. I mean, Chris Duarte's, they're all fine players, but this isn't pickup ball, and you're playing a legitimate Eastern Conference 4 seed, right? It's like the Cavs are in that top 4 squarely, where everybody below them is a little bit less trustworthy. And maybe you talk about Philly at this point in the 5 hole, which is fine. But they're a legit 4 seed, right? They're a good team that, at covering in 12 of their last 15. Obviously, the Vegas has come around a little bit to the Cavs, as where they were just covering every single spread over and over and over. It's not quite the exact same anymore, as we know this is a legitimate team. Darius Garland is an all-star, right? And Evan Mobley up for Rookie of the Year, looking incredible. And obviously, we know what he can do on defense. And until, I'm really going to continue to feel good about them in a situation where it doesn't matter. Like you mentioned, that them being the antithesis of the Lakers, they don't need any chip on their shoulder. They just are a walking chip on their shoulder, on anyone's shoulder at this point, where it's just like every game that they come into, you're not worried about them bringing it. This is a team that you like to bet on, because you're not worried about this random mid-season, malaise. It's really mostly about, them needing to prove it at this point. Karis LeVert, 11 points off the bench. He's going to come around. But the point is it's not just a bunch of random dudes coming together, trying to figure out how to play together on the fly right away, like the Pacers are, which is why I don't mind taking the Pacers under, to be honest with you. About 105.5 right now. I think the Cavs, like I said, they give up 104. This is not an offensive team that's played together enough at all for me to feel like they can gel and get by one of the best defenses in the entire league right now.
But counterpoint, you're totally right. They're giving up actually only 100 points per game in their last 15. But then you look at the last 5 road games, giving up 110 there, and with a 115 defensive rating. And the one thing I can point to is they go over the most often when they're road favorites, 7-3 to the over. They go over the least often when they're home favorites, 3-13 this season. And that includes the 98-85 win they had over Indiana at home. There are a lot of unknowns, you're right, totally, in terms of how, Halliburton and Hield are going to gel here. And that's the only reason I have pause to say I don't know if the Pacers are going to continue to play this way. But the way they played to get like the Clippers out of their shell and get to go over with the Magic, it's indicative of the way they were playing last season, which is to just say like this game's gonna total about 250, 260 as long as the other team can score. And Cleveland has been adaptable and shown that they can score many ways. That is all to say, I'm just having some fun with the numbers here. Totally. I think the simple pick is really Cleveland's going to win this game, and it's just a question of by how much.
Yeah.
And that's really the unknown, because the Pacers could completely be, have terrible chemistry as they try to put this team together on the fly, and the Cavs could run away with it. Or, Cavs could win another close game, as they are wont to do. So I would just consider a teaser if you want to do, on the road. They've had trouble covering in general in their last 15, 7-8 against the spread, despite those 12 wins.
Yeah.
So I would just consider a teaser, whether you want to do it with this game and get that total down to 210, go over it. Or, the other game we talk about, the Bulls are about 4-point favorites at home. Would love to just get them at a pick 'em along with the Cavs to cover about 2 points. Feel very confident about both those Midwest teams getting the win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, I don't have to bet on anything I don't want to. So if I just want to bet on the spread, I can do that. I'm having fun with the numbers as well. I mean, you're doing what any good bettor would be doing. You're trying to zag when everyone's zigging, and find some value. As you meant, that's a great stat that the Cavs, when they're home, away favorites, are 7-3 to the over, which is the complete inverse, and then some when they're 3-13 to the over as home favorites, right? So it's a great stat. It's just not the juice to me isn't worth the squeeze when I feel very confident about one thing versus just trying to have some fun with the other. There's a little bit of conflicting data to say, right? Like, there could be an under, and it wouldn't be shocking in any way either. But what would be shocking is if the Cavs don't win this game, as they are playing a team right now that is pretty much in shambles, and at this point just showcasing Tyrese Halliburton as potentially the future, which we'll see what they do next. But that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page, and check out those other couple videos we have for you on this fun Friday night slate. And until we see you next, happy betting.